James from Betfair here today. I've got another pro punter interview with Mark Rhoden. I just shot it. He's a great fella, Richmond tragic. He's been in the game about 2 decades. Learned his craft back up in Darwin, working for Mark Rhoden, and then at Sportsbet. Now he's trying to beat Sportsbet, any other bookie that lets him on, win on the exchange. Does a paid subscription service through Champion Bets and Winning Edge Investments. He's also the best I've seen at the pro lays. He's been cleaning up there on the Betfair hub. Anything that he's laying, you want to be paying attention to. Great fella. Hopefully you guys pick some information out and how he does his form and how he applies his trade and keeps evolving. Any questions, put them in the show notes in our comment section on YouTube and subscribe. That's it. Enjoy.
Talk to me about being selling your tips, which is pretty a tricky thing unto itself. It's easy enough when it's your own cash, but when you've got, a legion of people who are on you, how do you go about that, and how is that different from doing your own stuff?
The difference is, I think you get the feeling, and it's true, that you're being observed, like constantly in everything you do, which is something that you have to learn to handle, because you might, if you're approaching a race in a sort of left field kind of way, and you find something at $30 or something, and it runs last, and you just had your bet on it, no one knows. It's like, okay, well, I had to throw up the stumps here and got it wrong. But if you're sending that out to people, but a lot of other people, you've got to have a. Well, one of the things I found is you've got to be able to explain yourself. So if you're sending out a tip of whatever it is, you've got to be able to back up your reasoning and explain it, which is a good thing, for me, because it forces me to make sure I'm thinking clearly and I can explain my processes, and that's certainly a positive and a good thing for me to do. But you have to be. I don't know if it's a thick skin, but you have to be prepared to, be judged and observed constantly.
Yeah.
It's nice to have another income stream independent of your punting, but
correlated.
Sorry,
they're still correlated, aren't they?
Totally correlated, and that's what I found last year. I'd had a really good run, both for myself and my tipping services in 2018. So life was great. I was winning on the punt. I was getting a nice couple of checks each month.
Yeah.
In 2019, things start going wrong, and it all goes wrong at once. The checks get a lot smaller, and your bank's got a lot smaller too. So it's one or the other. It's feast or famine.
Yeah. But Richmond won the flag, so that was all right.
Richmond won the flag. Yeah, that was a highlight, and it was I won't say it was a dark year, but it was certainly a bit of a flat year for me, 2019. But that certainly was a bit of joy.
And that's turned it around. They've given you the form, the mighty Tigers, that you've carried it on.
I can't actually pinpoint the date where it started to turn, but it wasn't far after that. It's probably got something to do with it, yeah.
That's the effect. Beautiful. Yeah. What else do I need to ask you? I had a few. Just in terms of resources, like if you were, and I'm sure you get a few people that ask you this, you're pretty active on Twitter, just places that you would start. And I don't want you to deter too many people from joining the craft, but because the game is tricky at the moment, but places where you would pinpoint people to start, whether it's databases or books or things that you recommend for people to start.
It's a pretty big question, actually, because it's a pretty big topic. The way I did it, my father kept his own database, by hand back in the 1980s, and that was my first exposure to it. And he got his lead from the Don Scott books, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard of. They're dated now, but that series of books really did kick a lot of people off and doing their own stuff and keeping their own ratings in the 70s and 80s. Fast forward to the modern day, there are some commercially available databases which are good, very good. You've got GTX, Ratings to Win, South Coast, to name but three. I think they're probably the three main ones, and they all have very good points about them. We, as I said, Cam and I use our own, which he developed from scratch.
Yeah.
I suppose if you're going to be, if I was new to the game and I was going to get look into buying a database, I'd certainly try and get some sort of test period first, because it's a pretty decent financial commitment if you're new. But on the other hand, I don't see how you could do it totally seriously without the aid of something like that.
Yeah.
There are other cheaper ways you can get into it, like using the punting form sectional data, which doesn't use ratings per se, but has, their sort of benchmark figures on sectional times. And, that's a fair bit cheaper than the bigger full databases. So if you're looking to dip your toe in the water, and if you've got a statistical sort of mind, and that's probably a good way of easing into it. But there are plenty of other approaches. Watching videos, learning race reading, that sort of stuff. That's all. I mean, I've done all this stuff, but I've been doing it 25 or 20 years. So starting from scratch, there's a lot to cover. And I think if you're just looking at something that you might be able to make money out of, you're going to struggle unless you're an absolute mathematical genius, because there's a lot of work involved, and if you don't love it, it's going to flatten you.
Yeah, that's the key. I can see that. And what region would you recommend betting in if people, they might pick around, they might bet with the carnivals?
Yeah.
Saying the most attractive place to bet now as someone to pick one backyard, where would it be?
I think a few of the jurisdictions have their pros and cons. I'd say New South Wales because of the quality of the racing, but against that, I'd say if you were just trying to get a handle on how to study the form of a pool of horses, WA would be a pretty good one, because you've got it's sort of insular and limited.
Yep.
You've got two metro tracks, they just race on one for 6 months and the other for 6 months.
Yep.
And you've got a pretty tight provincial circuit they don't stray too far out of. So that, you've got a smaller pool of horses, jockeys and trainers. That would be a good one if you were starting out and wanted to concentrate on one regional line. That'd be a good one to start to get a handle on.
Yep. And how do you go about the discipline of being a pro and sharing your tips? Obviously, it's just something that I've been hearing a lot of recently is the psychology of betting and having practice of treating it like a profession. What do you do to keep that going?
Should probably do more. Probably shouldn't throw things as much when a photo goes against me. No, it's something I've got better at that. It's stressful for sure. I'm not into meditation or mindfulness or anything like that, and I'm not criticising anyone who is, because I think it's probably something I should look at. Just something I just never have. But I think the more you do it, if you can sort of get over the initial period and some of the shocks and the bumps that you're going to be exposed to, that's a help. Same as anything. Having experience of having done it before helps. So if you have a bad run, if you have a run of photos going the other way or whatever it may be, if you've been through it before because you've been doing it a few years, that's certainly going to help.
Yeah.
But I'm not the person to I'm not the person to tell anyone how to handle losing runs or close losses. I can be too bad.
Still riding pretty tough.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. In the current climate, I'm speaking to you in April 2020, where we're still in the heat of the COVID crisis, and but racing has ploughed through. Footy hasn't, amongst everything else in the world, but racing's ploughed through. What's impacts that had on you, if any, at the moment?
It hasn't had much, to be honest, and I'm really lucky in that way, because so many workers and small business people and so on are out of work or doing it much tougher if they're still in work. And I thought 3 weeks ago, back in mid-March of this year, when this crisis was really just starting to gain momentum, I thought, well, we're off here. They called the races off one day, a Thursday. There was only one meeting at Narromine in the whole country, and I thought, well, this is what we're going to be faced with. And I was starting to make plans about, okay, if we're going to have a shutdown that lasts months, how am I going to get through this? What am I going to do? Doing all that kind of planning, and it just hasn't eventuated. So I've been really lucky. All the racing bodies have done a great job. All the state governments have done a great job, except Tassie, unfortunately. But I'm just really thankful that that's been able to keep going. And touch wood, whatever. It could change very quickly again, but just on what we've seen so far, everyone's handled it really well, and I'm very happy about that.
And have you noticed anything different in the market, like specifically with my Betfair hat on, the activity there, both from overseas and locally, has been incredibly encouraging.
Sorry, go on.
No, that's it. Have you noticed anything different in terms of the way people are behaving? Is there anything changed from what you can see?
Not really, but I assume that you're seeing that increase in activity on the exchange because of the dearth of racing worldwide. People are just looking for product, and we've got some.
I think so. That's my assumption. I think that's most people's.
Yeah, I haven't actually. I mean, when I'm sitting there watching the exchange, when I'm punting or watching the races during a day's racing, it's because I'm concentrating on bigger races. There's always some volume there, you know, like on the metros and the major provincials. It's not like a real out wide wedding where the volume's a real problem. So I haven't actually. I'm sure the volume has gone up, but it's not something I've noticed in particular, and it doesn't seem to have affected how the market's moving either. I think, you know, the same factors and probably the same people are driving the big market moves.
Yeah. I have the same feeling as you. I haven't really picked up any difference in how it's playing. I do notice that they're liquid earlier.
Yeah, right.
The B grade and C grade tracks is still flooded with money, which is
right. So, and that must be with international punters, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so. And Australians just being able to get on earlier and knowing, probably having more confidence in the market.
Right. Yeah.
And visiting Betfair earlier.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. The earlier liquidity. How much earlier are you talking about?
Oh, you see, like race one half an hour out in like Rockhampton the other day. There might have been 50,000 matched already, and then you know there'll be 100 or 200 by the time they go.
Yeah, that is a significant change.
Yeah. Which is good. It's just showing a bit of evolution, which is lucky again that the industry's being able to evolve in this really tough climate.
Absolutely, but particularly Betfair, which had so many hurdles put in its way in this country. That's great that it is seemingly thriving.
Yeah, beautiful. Nothing too much for me, mate. Thoughts on Richmond? Should the season go back on? Feeling good?
I was actually obviously couldn't go to the footy in round one. No one could. I thought it was a pretty half-assed win over Carlton, and I saw Collingwood the next night, and they were clinical, and so I was pretty happy round two got called off. We've got a few more months to prepare for Collingwood. That might give us a chance. But it's going to be a funny season, whatever happens. But Richmond have a pretty experienced list now, so they should cope with what's thrown at them.
Yeah, they just keep coming. All right, mate. Very good. Thank you. I think we've covered most bases today. I really appreciate your time.
No worries at all, mate. Pleasure.